Okay guys, so I'd like to do a quick overview of the Mart Cart and where the components are located. Alright, I've got this guy here in the back. It's working fine. I just pulled it off to the side so I can show you where the basic control components are. So this is a Model 37 Mart Cart, and the components are as follows. There is a seat release switch in the back. You reach up underneath the back of the frame, back behind this blue cover, take the screws off, pull this thing off, pull the cover aside, and there's a seat switch right here that releases the seat forward. There is a battery charger, and there is a 35 amp hour golf cart battery in here with LED terminals, okay? Inside the battery cap, you have a charging circuit breaker rated at 25 amps, and you also have a mainline fuse coming out from the battery to the controller, okay? We've gone over how to test the batteries, and real quick, I'd like to show you or discuss with you how to test if the battery charger is working. When you plug the battery charger in, it has to be a live test. I have yet to find out how to test the resistance to do a dead test on it. You plug it into a 120 volt outlet, and then the battery connection terminal right here, the battery charging terminal this side, there is a green, black, and a white. You're gonna put your multimeter, any type of multimeter, on DC voltage, and you're gonna put it into the black and the white, and you're going to plug it into the wall, and you're gonna get a reading of output from the charger. It's gonna be in DC, okay? The battery is 12 volts. Your rating of the battery output or the charger output should be between 13 and 14 volts, okay? 1 or 2 volts higher depending on the charge level of the battery, and you know, some of them are smart. This is a 10 amp charger, okay? Now it's very important that when you get replacement batteries for this unit that they can withstand 10 amps worth of charging, okay? It's meant to be a rapid charge, you know, so customers there's low turnover time for it. All right, coming out from the, we'll call this the battery assembly, okay? So you have your charger and your battery, and then you have your power harness. Your power harness splits off, it's hard to see, and like I said, this is a quick overview. There's a terminal or a splice, a connector, that splits off, goes up through the frame, and goes into a seat switch. The seat switch is probably, I've never had one fail on me. It's a dead man switch. It's either off or on. It's robust. It's very easy to work on. If you ever wanted to work on the unit and you didn't want to have to keep sitting on the seat in order to try to see if the unit's going to work, you can make yourself a little jumper, a little double spade jumper, and you could jumper the seat switch here during testing purposes only, okay? So that's power in and power out to the motor controller. Motor controller is found under the black floor plate of the Mart Cart. The motor controller controls power from the battery, from the seat switch into the CPU, the logic board, and then it allows power output to go out from the controller, up through the steering assembly harness, up into the control box here. Let me bring that a little bit closer so you can see it. And this is your control box here. This is your motor controller. Inside of the control box, you have different functions. You have different functions inside of the start-stop switch. You have your green LED, you have your red LED, your orange LED, and your red and orange LED. And that's all controlled by the CPU, the motor controller down at the bottom. Most of the time when you're gonna get a red, that's battery low, okay? If you know the battery's good and you've charged it and you got a red, then you have a power lead problem somewhere between the motor controller or pre-motor controller and the actual motor assembly in the front. A wire's been disconnected, it's been ripped out, it's been ran over, or another possibility is the potentiometer. I'd say 7 times out of 10, the potentiometer goes bad, okay? And it's a very simple fix once you get the part. There's 2 screws in here, 2 Phillips head screws. Take those out, disconnect the harness here, the quick connect, put the 2 screws back in, and your potentiometer is good. Some of them need to be programmed to the controller, the motor controller. Like if you have an old control board and you get a new potentiometer switch, you have to do a hold the horn button, I believe it's for 15 seconds. And then after the last couple 15 seconds, you depress the seat switch 3 times and you should get a chime. So that's all in the technical literature that I've uploaded on the Yammer and the Google Drive to reprogram a potentiometer switch. And that's also something you can learn from tech support, Assemble Products tech support. They're very good on that stuff. So when you go to put the controller back in, you're going to raise the throttle. Going to raise the throttle a little bit to align your horseshoe potentiometer plastic horseshoe right here with the throttle bar in the middle here. And there you go, okay? So now we've got a problem here that you hear that clicking noise and the beep. That's the motor trying to engage and it's not working. I suspect that we have a loose wire or a broken wire somewhere between the motor controller and the actual motor. So let's take a look at that. So right here I've got the actual motor assembly for the Mart Cart, and the harness for it is right here in the front. And I found the problem right here. So we have the positive terminal on the motor controller got pulled out. So we're gonna put that back in. So that's the kind of stuff I'm telling you about, is a lot of these wires can become disconnected, they can be pulled out, and those are very simple fixes, okay? So that's probably the first thing I would recommend when troubleshooting Mart Carts is look for loose connections, look for small wires that are pulled out. I mean, they're small, 24, 26 gauge wires that get pulled out, they get broken, they're stranded cable, so they are pretty flexible, but they do get pulled out. So, but that was a simple fix, right? If this thing was in the back and it was beeping and I was getting a red indication light, that's a pretty simple fix right there, right? And it should be ready to go. Let's see. So once again, in order to test the actual Mart Cart, you have to sit on it, engage the seat switch. I got a green light. Woohoo! That beep was me backing up, okay? So that was a simple fix. To change the motor out in the front, okay, you have your motor right here in the front, okay? And it's got 2 3/4 inch nuts on the right and left side, and it's a slip bracket assembly. So when you remove these nuts and you disconnect this harness, it literally slides out of these forks right here in the front. It's very simple. I don't know if you guys have ever changed a bicycle wheel. Same principle. You loosen up the side bolts, and then the bike wheel slides out of the fork, the actual horseshoe ends of the fork. It's the same principle with the motor. Very simple to change out. The harness, it's a little pain in the butt. You have this harness protector. It's coiled around the shaft of the steering column. So, that's a little annoying. That just takes time. It's tedious, but it's pretty straightforward. You have your harness grommet. So it comes out from the coil down into the cavity, the control box cavity, and it wires up accordingly. I mean, you can just do a like for like kind of a situation with wiring up these things. There's not a whole lot of damage you can do to them. Take that back. If you reverse the polarity, DC circuits are unforgiving. AC is pretty
for the most part, once again, it's application, it's what's going on. If you reverse the polarity on a control board, and you hook up positive to negative and negative to positive, you reverse that polarity, you're gonna cause some damage if you don't have some sort of built-in protection against that. That's going to, have some diodes that's it's gonna block the signal. It's gonna say, no, that's not the correct polarity, reconnect it. It's gonna give you a warning. So these are pretty much plug and play. There are two main terminals on a Mart Cart. Okay, you have your power in, which is going to be negative and positive, black and red. Okay, and then you're going to have your multi-pin connector that's going to go out to both the start-stop switch horn up there, the light LED indicated push button, and your potentiometer. Okay, another way to test the potentiometer, the actual real way to do it from tech support, is that I believe it is the red and the black need to be at, did he say 1500 ohms? So I'll get back to you on that. We'll get you the actual data of what it is, but you can test the resistance of your potentiometer and find out for a fact if it's bad. Okay, they're pretty cheap. I've got a ton of them on my truck. It's very easy to do a plug and play kind of a thing. If you don't have time, or if you don't want to test the ohms of the switch, you can just plug and play and get moving on. But that comes from the multi-pin connector. There have been times where that thing has been loose. The multi-pin connector has been loose, all right? And that's a problem. Push it in and it resolves the issue. Then over here you have motor output, okay? That's gonna be blue and white, okay? And it'll show you on the back side of the control board, and I'll do one a little bit more in depth, but it's gonna show you, blue goes here, white goes here, right? And that's straightforward, plug and play. The way to test your motor to see if it's not working correctly is you have to sit on the cart, right? And you have to have good battery, you have power coming into the control board, and you have a good potentiometer. And what you do is you disconnect the motor leads, take them off the control board, then you hook your meter up to it, right? With some alligator clamps, if you've got those testers with alligator clamps. We'll go into more detail, but basically you're checking for output voltage from the motor controller to the actual wires. You can do that on these terminals right here, these two terminals. So you take these two off and you put your meter in its place, positive and negative, red to blue and black to white. You can do that. If you mix up the polarity on those, you're just gonna get positive 12 volts or you're gonna get negative 12 volts DC, so that's not critical. So if you know that everything is good and you go and you're sitting on a C switch and you push the throttle forward and you're getting output voltage from the motor controller, then hook your motor back up, hook your power leads back up to your motor controller, and then do it again. You know that you're having power out from the controller to the motor, so that you can then deduce that the motor is bad. At that point, I don't just right away assume. I go further into the harness and I start looking at the wires, oh, this one's pulled out of its connector a little bit. Oh, that's why it's not getting all of its power it needs. Okay, push that back in, plug it back in, and away we go. Or sometimes, hey, no, all the leads are in, everything's connected, it's good to go. I know I've got voltage out to it and it's not running. Your motor is bad. It's about, I think it was $400, $600 for a motor. That's why it's important that you justify your purchases, right? Troubleshooting, critical thinking, problem solving, attention to detail, those little things add up. $500 here, $100 here, over weeks and months, that stuff starts out adding up to a few $1,000s, right? So let's justify our purchases with some good troubleshooting, technical skills. So that's what I'm trying to do here today. So that's a pretty basic rundown of a Mart Cart. We'll do a quick overview one more time. You have your seat. You have your seat switch, about dead man switch right in the middle. Underneath the back side here, you have your seat release. It's a little metal spring clip. That opens that up. That allows you to take the blue cover off. Battery charger, battery. Harness goes out to the motor controller, and then motor controller communicates with the actual throttle assembly and with the motor in the front, okay? So for more in-depth videos on how to troubleshoot seat switches and that kind of stuff, I'll make some separate videos, but I just wanted to give you a brief introduction of the Mart Carts and the components to them. And we'll do the same thing with the mule carts, and we'll do the same thing with the floor cleaning equipment when I get some more time for that. But I hope that helps. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out on Yammer, or you can find me, through our company's email, and I'll field your questions, and I'll do my best to walk you through over the phone how to troubleshoot this stuff. I believe that most of you guys are good technicians. I haven't met a bad technician yet. I think that there's some apprehension on getting familiar with this equipment due to time constraints and the busyness of being a Walmart tech. But I believe that if most of you just afford yourself the time, you're already in front of the equipment, it's already broken, dig in a little bit. Take photos of wiring before you start disconnecting things. Take photos, good photos, so you have a backup to rewire things, and just start digging into it. You know what I mean? Disconnect power sources so it's a dead circuit. You can feel comfortable about what you're doing, and get in there. What's that? Look online for a manual. Get the parts in front of you. What are you looking at? Oh, that's called a motor controller. All right, what does it do? Oh, it sends power out to the motor, and it has a brake function, it has a horn function, it communicates with the potentiometer, it has start-stop switch, it gives you error codes. That's cool, okay, I didn't know that. What is this? Oh, this is the battery charger. What are the parameters of it? Find out about the equipment that you're working on. Get into it. Most of you guys can figure out anything if you put your mind to it. If you want to figure it out, you're going to figure it out. When I was 12 years old and I got my first Xbox, man, I learned that thing inside and out, backwards and forwards. I knew how to save games. I knew how to, play on Xbox Live. I knew how to do all that stuff because I was interested in it. So if you show that same type of interest, that same type of creative focus on whatever you're doing, and as long as it's safe, if you that safety thing, if you de-energize things, if you disconnect batteries, there's freedom that comes to that. You can hook things up incorrectly if there's no power source, and you can take a step back and you can look at it and say, is that done right? Did I do that right? And de-energizing equipment allows you that freedom. It lets you play, it lets you explore, it lets you figure it out. And that is what I think is key for helping most of you technicians that are struggling with these automatic carts, is you're apprehensive. You don't feel like you have the time to actually get in there and do that. Well, if it's down and you got a call, there's time made right there. Okay, they want you to fix it. Take the time, figure out how it works. Ask the maintenance guy if he's around. Hey, what does it normally do? Right? What does this thing normally do? And what is it not doing? Well, it normally, when I lower the vacuum and I press the throttle for it, it drives and it vacuums up the water. But now when I lower the vacuum in the squeegee, it doesn't suck up the water. I don't know what's going on. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for that. You find out the vacuum isn't working. There's a noise coming from it, but it's just the vacuum motor seizing up, right? Oh, your vacuum motor's bad. Then you take the make, the model, go online, find the manual for that unit, look up the parts, vacuum motor assembly. You find out the thing is, whatever, $500. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they're going to pay for it either way. Third-party vendor's going to charge it. They're probably going to upcharge it, right? They're probably going to put their fee on it, plus their labor, plus their truck roll fee, whatever other things they can justify to get away with. That's the most critical point of CBRE's advantage for Walmart, is that we have accountability with our work. That if we're overselling, we have no reason to, by the way. We're actually hurting ourselves if we oversell. But if we're changing out parts that are not justified, right, because we're just throwing parts at it, we don't really know what the root cause problem is, we're doing Walmart, and we're doing our company an injustice. Third-party vendors, they come in here and they say, oh yeah, your floor cleaning equipment, it needs all new batteries, it needs a new control board, it needs a new motor assembly, it's a wreck, but I'll get it for you and we'll get you running, right? So 2.5 weeks later, they get all those parts, $3,000 in bills, plus another $1,000 in truck costs, labor and stuff like that. And let's say they didn't even address the root issue. Then they're getting a callback, and then if they can smooth their way out of that callback, they're making a killing off of Walmart. So we're the frontline defenders, right? And so developing your technical skills, developing your analytical skills, problem solving, attention to detail, little things that you can catch, that's gonna save our client a lot of money. It's gonna make you look good, and it's gonna make you feel better about your work that you're doing. So, those of you who don't know me, my name's John, and I'm a general maintenance technician, and I'm doing these videos to help you guys out. You know, if you succeed, we all succeed, you know? So, thanks, and we will get to some floor cleaning equipment when I get the time. But as of right now, there's a Mart Cart, and we'll keep pushing this thing and get you guys trained up. Thanks.